Welcome to Coffee and Conversations for Men, a podcast where two men, Jay Guy
and Brian Jones,
sit down to share their stories of struggles, successes, and everything in between as they navigate the ups and downs of life.
Each episode will dive into topics men are curious about as it relates to their fitness, nutrition, relationships, mental health, and being a lifelong learner. If you're looking for real talk, honest discussions, and practical advice, you're in the right place.
So grab your coffee
Or your favorite drink.
and sit back and join us for some candid conversations that will inspire, motivate, and remind you that you are not alone on this journey. So let's get started.
What's the question a kid asked you that you didn't quite know how to answer? The one that made you pause, look away.
Or say, yeah, we'll talk about that later. The ones that kids are asking, the ones that teens are asking, that often leave us caught off guard. And yeah, that one. I know what you're thinking.
Because let's be honest, some of the hardest questions kids ask aren't really about the words. How to talk about anxiety, identity, sex, failure, or even our own emotions.
And we asked you to send them in. And did you ever?
Oh, did you ever?
Not just where do babies come from. I'm talking about, am I good enough? Why do guys bully other guys? And what if I don't fit in?
And the ones that hit even deeper. Can I tell you something without you getting mad? What if I'm gay or confused? Can I tell you? Do you ever feel like you're failing?
Kids aren't asking just for the answers. They're asking, are you safe? Will you listen? Can I trust you with who I really am?
And these aren't just kid questions. They're human questions. And way too many men have never been shown how to answer them. Or even how to sit in them.
So we're not dodging them anymore. No perfect answers, no scripts, just real conversation.
Because the conversations we avoid are often the ones that matter the most.
This is Coffee and Conversations for Men. So join us.
Okay, so what's in your cup today?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Kicking Horse Coffee named a coffee after me.
Ooh, what'd they call it?
This is called Smartass.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
It's actually really good. I really do like their Grizzly Claw coffee as well. It's really rich. It's bold. It's very sharp.
Right.
But this one is very smooth, and it's not as sharp as Grizzly Claw, and it's actually really smooth for like a nighttime coffee. So yeah, like I'm really enjoying Smartass.
I bet you are.
But I see you brought some goodies tonight.
I did.
What do you have?
I did. Remember our friend from Florida who sent up the Rising Cock coffee?
Yes, of course. How can I forget?
So she was visiting some of her family in Ontario. Her and her husband live in Florida.
Okay.
And they brought up one called The Farmer.
Okay.
And the other one called a Barnyard Brew.
Woo-hoo!
So yeah. So I haven't tried the Barnyard Brew. I'm going to. That'll be for another episode.
As you keep waving this around, like I just want to follow the back. Like it smells so good.
This is a chocolatey brew, a smoky finish, and yeah, it's very good. It's interesting. It's from Cape Coral, and the store owner there was looking for a coffee that represented that he felt comfortable enough to sell with his label on it.
Yeah.
And so this Javadora is Farmer Joe's coffee, and Lee Snyder is the owner of the store, and that's what they highlight. So I'm enjoying it. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you filling our cups and giving us some ideas that we would have tried.
Yeah.
And so that's
I can't wait to try it.
I know.
It smells amazing.
It is.
Wow. I wish that was a deodorant. That smells so good.
You just keep with your smart ass coffee, okay?
Yeah, it's fitting. Cheers. Brian, let's just jump right on into this.
Sure. Where do you want to start?
You know what? Let's just start with the ever famous, Dad, where do babies come from?
And how did they get in your belly?
Well, and how do they? Yeah. That's a great follow-up question.
Okay. Well, first of all, living on a farm. I grew up on a farm, and I saw animals breeding all the time. The bull would be active and come in, and as kids, we'd watch the bull in action. Yeah, we did. And as kids, we saw how baby calves were going to be eventually born. So we started to figure this out. However, I thought that making babies involved bareback humping.
Oh,
because that's what
That's what you witnessed.
That's what I witnessed.
Okay.
However, at the same time, we also saw a vet come in and perform artificial insemination on our cows. So the vet would come in with sperm from pedigree bulls, and then with artificially inseminate would with our heifers that were in heat. So in a way, we were exposed to both the natural and the assisted reproduction, and without any real explanation, we just kind of witnessed it.
Yeah. And came to our own conclusions.
We did, but we never discussed this with our daughters.
Okay.
As when they were growing up, and we weren't sure how they learned it. Now, one of our eldest daughters, a mom herself, so somewhere along the line, she figured it out. But seriously, if it was a 6-year-old asking me, my answers are age appropriate.
Yeah, that's right.
So I would start off by something like, well, babies start growing very small in a special place inside their mother called a uterus, and they grow until they're ready to be born. Now, if it was a 10-year-old asking me, I'm going to give a little bit more detail. A baby begins when the tiny seed from a dad and a tiny seed from a mom come together, and the cells join, and it grows in the mom's uterus for 9 months, and then the baby's born. Now, sometimes the baby comes a little before the due date, sometimes it's a little bit after the due date, but usually 9 months.
Yeah.
16-year-old, I'm not sure how many 16-year-olds would actually ask, because their bodies are already changing and they've found stuff out through social media. However, we never had this discussion with our girls, but for a 16-year-old, babies are created through sexual reproduction when a sperm from the male fertilizes an egg from a female. And this can happen through sex or through medical help with an IVF. And the embryo develops in the uterus. And then I would go on to say, if you want to talk more about the relationship or love or consent, we can do that too. But I'm only going to answer basically what they ask and let them take the discussion on from there.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, instead of bombarding them with over information that they don't need.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So instead of the birds and the bees, you got bulls and heifers.
Well, I guess, you're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. That's what I'm guessing anyway.
Okay, switch gears here. Another question that came in from our listeners.
Yeah.
Why do you cry, and why do people cry?
Why do people cry? Yeah. So I spent many years not crying about anything. So to come up with this answer was kind of like a tag team effort. I had quite a few conversations with my dad during the making of my notes, and it was really, really helpful to get some insight from another dad. And it was nice to get his perspective, which I've never gotten before. We conversate all the time, but it was really nice to get his perspective on things and on being a dad. So it was really nice to hear that. So I've had some conversations with my dad on becoming a father and being a new father. I mean, you come into parenting with whatever tools you have or no tools at all. In that moment, you're just working with whatever it is you got. From moment to moment, that's the operating system you're working with. Sometimes you're doing all the right stuff, or at least that's what you think. And in the moment, you're hoping it all works out because you don't have a clue what you're doing.
No.
Especially as a new dad. You don't have a clue what you're doing. There's no rule book, there's no handbook, there's nothing. So you're just really hoping it all works out. And the truth is, life is hard. Nobody gave you a play-by-play that you're going to have to follow. Nobody says, oh at month 8, this is what's going to happen. So you can expect this is what's going to happen. It just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes the weight of the world feels unbelievably heavy. And sometimes it feels unbearable. And with those feelings comes all kinds of emotions. Emotions that we don't know what to do with oftentimes. And emotions that we don't know how to deal with. And sometimes those emotions make you want to feel like crying. But like most of us, we don't feel comfortable crying because we don't feel safe when we cry. Or we don't feel like it's safe to cry. And we have talked about that in other episodes, especially when we said crying in the car counts. Remember that? And I think that's why we do it as men. I think that's why we do it, because we don't feel safe just openly crying, either in front of people or other men. And if we could just tell each other that it's okay to have a good cry, that it helps to hit that reset button on your emotions, that it will actually help and be helpful, I think we would do it. It's healthy for the nervous system to just go ahead and have a good cry every now and again, but we don't. And so when we finally do, we do it uncontrollably because the emotions have gotten the better of us and we don't know how to control our emotions. So when we get mad, we get very mad. When we get frustrated, we get very frustrated because we don't know how to regulate those emotions. So when we end up crying, when we finally do break and give ourselves the okay to cry, sometimes it's uncontrollable and we don't know how to stop crying once we start. And I found that out the hard way. I went a long time without crying, and when I finally did, I couldn't shut it off. Remember that? I could not shut it off. I wish I had somebody that would say, it's okay, man. Just let it out. Go ahead. It's normal. So if I could teach young children one thing, it's like, you feel like crying? Go ahead. I tell my kids, when they say I feel like having a cry, just have a cry. Come on, I'll hold you. I'll give you a hug. Just let it out. Just cry. Don't tell them, oh, that's enough now. Stop that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. So yeah, when it's time to cry, let it out.
Let it out.
Honestly, Brian, I made that mistake when my kids were young. Because I didn't know how to cry, I tried to stop them from crying.
Yeah.
It was always, well, you don't have to cry about this. There's no need to cry. Okay, that's enough now. That's enough crying now. Let's just stop that. And instead of letting them feel safe and letting them just cry because it is a safe space, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I made the mistake of trying to stifle. I don't know if that's the right word, but I to try to stop the crying because I didn't know how to emotionally support them in crying.
Which kind of leads to the next question that came in.
Yeah.
To us.
Okay.
What happens when you die? Because that whole topic is really relevant for a kid who's asking this because either a grandparent or great grandparent or a neighbor or a friend or somebody has died and want to know what happens in that area. So for me, growing up in the area that I grew up, our parents took us to every single funeral for relative, neighbor.
Kidding.
We would pack it. We'd get all together as a family, and out we would go.
Because it was a small community?
It was a small community.
Okay, so you knew everyone.
But it was common for mom to be baking for the funeral reception.
Okay, yeah.
The church group would be baking squares and cookies and sandwiches. And we, as kids, we would joke that we grew up on funeral sandwiches because we were forever going to funerals. My mom would keep squares in the freezer just in case.
Really?
There was a funeral coming up and we got it. She doesn't want us to be prepared. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. But the year they went to Florida and she knew that Mrs. So-and-so was not well.
Yeah.
She said, Brian, if Miss
So-and-so,
so I won't say the name.
Yeah.
If they pass away and there's the funeral, we're not around for it. But the squares are in the freezer. Get them to the church.
God.
And I said, are you serious? She said, yes, her name is on the package in the freezer. I said, she hasn't died yet? No, but she's not well.
Oh,
and so, God. And sure enough, they were in Florida. She passes away. I go to their place. I get in the freezer. There's the squares ready to head to the church that's there. So, I mean, and I joke about it now, but our girls kind of grew up with me telling stories about how death and animals on the farm and also with relatives that we were taken to the funeral visitation.
Yeah.
And as a result, death was never something that was scary.
Yeah, because you were exposed
it was
to
just part of life.
That makes sense.
And for a 6-year-old, I would say to them, when someone dies, their body stops working. They don't feel pain anymore. The people who love them will remember them and carry them in their hearts.
Oh, that's a
just
great
a simple answer for a 6-year-old. Now, if the child's a little bit older, 10-ish, it just means death means the body stops working completely. And people have different beliefs about what happens when someone dies.
Yeah.
Some people believe in heaven. Others believe the person is just in a restful place. What matters most is how we love them and cared for them when they were living and how we want to remember them when they've died. Now, for a 16-year-old who's really questioning, like, what's going on here? Like, what happens?
Yeah.
And basically, biologically, death is the end of the body's function and consciousness. And what happens beyond that is really personal beliefs, culture, religion, or philosophy. And it's okay to question that and explore what's meaningful and what's true for you. to believe. Our daughters heard lots of dinner conversations. My wife is a retired ICU nurse, but when she was working, and she would talk about losing a patient that she'd had. So our daughters would hear these stories, and my wife would go on to say, well, if it's a Muslim culture, we had to make sure the bed was facing a certain direction or the head was turned to Mecca.
Oh, wow.
If it was a person who was Jewish, we had to make sure that things were done very rapidly because there need to be a burial before sundown or as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Or there are some cultures where the religious leader, had to be present for the final wishes and for the trip down to the morgue and to what needed to happen. So they heard stories about this. It doesn't make it easy, but it let them know that it's part of life.
Yeah, and culturally, everyone has their own
That's
thing.
right. That's right. So that's what we did. Okay, this next question that came in: why do grown-ups lie sometimes?
Honestly, you answered the death questions beautifully. I got to give you that credit. I think if that was mine to answer, I would have lied my ass off through that.
And somehow I don't think our listeners would be surprised. But if you have that question from a kid, why do grown-ups lie sometimes?
Yeah, this is a good one. And I'm going to do my best to answer it honestly. I had a conversation with my dad and I asked him just this question. He answered with a statement that I immediately told him, Pop, you can consider that stolen. My dad answered with, Jay, parents don't practice lying. And I was like, shit, Dad, I'm going to need a minute to process this. He says, parents don't practice lying. We practice protection, physical and emotional protection for our children. And I was like, okay, I'm going to need to pull over here, Dad. Like, you need to give me a second here. So we joked back and forth. We had a good laugh. Something came up about copywriting when I said, you can consider this stolen, blah, blah, blah. And I said to my dad, well, it isn't perjury if it isn't published. And so, we joked back and forth, laughter, but all in a very serious laughter. He was getting his point across, and I was doing my best to process while through laughter, right? Having this conversation with Dad regarding this question and these truthful little nuggets that he was dropping. Parents don't practice lying for the sake of just lying. They practice protection, emotionally and physically protecting your children. And so he went on to explain, in a dangerous situation, when you need to get your family out of there as quickly as possible, and you don't have time to explain yourself or the situation to your child, you're going to lie about whatever you need to lie about, to do whatever you need to do to get your children and your family out of there as quickly as possible. And you will explain your ass off later. That, Dad said, becomes situational lying for protection, physically. When you need to emotionally protect your children, he said, think of it something like you're going to the dentist and your kid is scared shitless. And you know it's not going to be comfortable because they're getting teeth pulled or cavities filled or whatever, and they're scared. And so you're trying to emotionally save them from that fear. So you're trying to tell them stuff like, buddy, it isn't going to be that bad. He's my dentist too, and it's okay. He's going to be gentle. So you're emotionally trying to save them from that fear. Also, emotionally, like, mom and dad are getting divorced. You're trying to emotionally dumb that down for the child so that it's not emotionally overwhelming. So that would be an emotional protection. So parents really focus on two things: protection physically and protection emotionally. And I found a lot of logic in what Dad was saying, and I could understand where he was coming from. And I can honestly say I've done that myself without even knowing it, but I've never actually thought about why. Emotionally or physically, it's for protection.
Makes sense. Okay.
Because I never practice lying for the sake of lying to my children.
It's through protection.
It's through protection. Whatever needs to be done in the moment, as a parent, you're just trying to do your best and shelter your children. And these conversations that I've been having with my dad lately, he's dropping some knowledge. He's dropping some nuggets of knowledge. Yeah, he's a lot more mature now than he was when I was a kid, but yeah, he was just really dropping some knowledge. Or maybe he was dropping them when I was a kid and I wasn't hearing it, maybe,
Go back to your coffee, smart ass.
Yeah, right? which leads me to our next question, which I didn't ever have that conversation with my dad because I didn't see it like you see it now, which is, why is there homeless people?
Yeah. I remember taking our girls downtown. And when they were little, and we were walking around, and there was definitely some homeless people on the streets. And sometimes we would give them food. And I remember once our daughter asked if we should call an ambulance. And I said, no, he's eating something and he's warm right now. And she said, oh, okay. And I worked down at Wesleyan Bay in the city in the last part of my career. And my walk back to the GO train, I would pass some individuals who were homeless, but I got to know them over the years that I was there. And there was, I would pass, I'll call him Alan. And he was at the corner of Bay and Gerard, and he was blind, and he got to know my voice, and I would say, "Hi, Alan," and he would say, "Hi, Brian," and I'd say, "How you doing?" And he said, "Still can't see today." And I'd slip him a Subway token, and I'd say, "Here, if you need to be warm, here's a Subway token." He'd say, "Thanks," and off I'd go to the Subway. And then there was Bert, I'll call him Bert. Yeah. And he was on the heat grate above the Subway that comes up, the corner of Adelaide and Bay. And I got to know him over the years, and I'd say, "How are you?" And he would, grunt back to me, "Same as yesterday." And I would hand him, I'd say, "Well, I got an apple for you." "Don't want an apple." And I says, "Well, you can't be too hungry then." And he said, "See you tomorrow." And off I would go. But these guys, they had names, they had pasts, and they had struggles. And as we got older, we do Subway tokens for the girls when they would hand them out. And of course they can't use them now because it's Presto cards. But at the time, it was for them to realize that these people had some struggles, but they were still human beings. And there was one teachable moment that I'll never forget. We were on the Gardner Express. Is that the Lakeshore? The one underneath, anyway. And we were stopped at the stop sign, and quite often sweegie kids would come up to do your windows and want some money. And this young kid came up, and he didn't have a sweegie brush in front of him. He was handing out his one-sheet resume. And it was such a teachable moment for our girls to see that this kid was trying desperately to do something different in his life. And on it was a contact information, and it talked about some of his skills that he has. And I'm sure there would be someone stopping that would have a connection for him. And our daughters also heard me talk at the dinner table, kids in my school and I referred to them as couch kids. Because they would be living on the couches of friends' places because they were no longer invited in their own home. And they would be couch surfing, basically. And so we'd work really hard to get them with a social worker or children's aid or somebody to help them through what they needed. And I remember some teachers who were kind of like, "Oh, they're late for school and they didn't bring their homework and they didn't do this and this." And I say, whoa. They haven't slept in 48 hours. They're wearing the same clothes in 3 days. They've been sleeping maybe on the bench in the park. And we're working really hard at our end here to find them some extra help. So, they might have slept through math. Whoopee. There's a little bit more here that we're dealing with than your math lesson. The teacher would go, "Oh, yeah, okay, you're right." But it was a way for our girls as they were growing up to see that these individuals were human individuals and they had some struggles. It could be money problems. It could be just hard situations or addiction struggles or family breakdown or even the rising costs of house. It just wasn't an individual decision. It could be a social system decision, but it certainly opened up our girls' eyes and mine to have a better view of what needs to happen for these individuals to be safe, be at ease, and be comfortable. Okay, this next question that came in, it's interesting. So if you're asked, why do you always say, "Because I said so"?
I heard that far too often. As
you
a kid.
Said it too often, or
no, I heard it. I heard it. I hated it, and I never said to my children, "Because I said so." Oh God! And in my notes, I have the question: have you ever heard the expression "because I said so"? Followed by a throat punch. Anyhow. That's the expression.
Because I said so.
Because I said so. And it's just easier to say "because I said so" than come up with a logical and reasonable explanation for the child.
Because I said so.
Oh, God, I hated it. And no, I can tell you that no child wants to hear because I said so. Oh, God, I'm going to need you to stop saying that. So, nobody wants to hear because I said so. It's almost like the finishing move in a video game. Like, finish him because I said so. And then that's it. There's no further explanation than because I said so. It's almost like shutting down a conversation. I'm not willing to talk anymore because I said so. It's definitive. That statement is just because I said so. You might as well say, because I'm done with this conversation. I don't say it. I don't use it on my children. I never used it when they were a kid. And I just feel, I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, but I feel like it's a cop-out statement. And I feel like you're putting no effort into answering your kid. You're just flat out not answering with because I said so. And sometimes I think that's why parents use it. It's because it's easier than coming up with something logical for the child to understand. But your children knows the difference. Your children knows that you're not even trying. The kids know you're not even coming up with any sort of effort to answer their question. You're not being creative. You're just killing the conversation by saying, because I said so. You have no rebuttal. You have no answer. And you have no interest in this conversation anymore. The interest is shutting down the conversation. There's no interest in discovery. There's no interest in learning. There's no teachable moment in because I said so. Because I said so is too easy. So here's where you need to flip the script so that your children don't feel like your answers are lazy. You have to be honest with your children. Even when you don't have an answer, your children would rather you say, I don't know, than because I said so. You have to be able to tell your children, I have no idea why X, Y, and Z happened. I don't know why I'm telling you can't have another one. I just know that I don't want you to have another one, but I don't have a good answer for you, rather than because I said so. So, for me, as a parent, I never used it because I hated it as a kid. And as a child, I am positive they would rather be told I don't have a good answer because that sounds at least like an answer.
Oh, excellent.
Brian, the next question is, why do guys bully other guys?
Oh, I got this one.
Okay.
Because I was bullied as a kid. Most of the time, I ran from it, I ignored it, or I tried to joke it off. Now, my own daughters never really asked me the question, and I've only practiced answers with the students I had at my schools, because they would come into the office and they'd be upset and crying because they had seen someone else be bullied, or they were bullied themselves. And if for a 6-year-old, I would say something like, sometimes people are mean because they feel upset inside and they don't know how to be kind. And it doesn't make it okay. We need to treat everybody with respect. It just kind of, for a 6-year-old, give them the language they can understand. For a 10-year-old, I'm going to be a little bit more upfront and say, bullying often comes from insecurity. Some kids try to feel stronger by putting other people down. It's not a healthy way to deal with feelings, and it really hurts people. But letting them know that bullying is usually a sign of insecurity because someone is showing power
100%.
over it.
Yeah.
For a 16-year-old, a lot of bullying, especially among guys, is tied to insecurity, social pressure, and the idea of being tough and dominant. And some put other people's down to protect their own image and status. And if you watch any television show or movie where there is bullying, chances are the bully is protecting their own status or image. And understanding it, that can help. It doesn't excuse the behavior at all, but it's important to think about how you're going to respond. Are you going to stand up? Or are you, like, your safety is important in this situation, but by the fact that they're talking about it with another person, an adult or somebody else, means they're not shutting it down inside and doing what I did, which was ignoring it, tried to joke it off, and ran away from it. Jay, another question that came in: what if I'm not good enough?
I've been dealing with this for years.
Okay, so how would you answer it if your daughters, if your kids came up to you and said, Dad, what if I'm not good enough?
Yeah, that's exactly where this has come. That's exactly where I wrote my notes for this from.
Let's hear what you came up with.
I think the only rebuttal to this question from a parent's point of view should be good enough for who? It took me a long time to figure out good enough for who, and that's you. That's it, just for yourself. Because that's all that really matters is you, your opinion. If we teach our children that the opinions of others can only hold so much weight, that people are always going to have an opinion, but only you get to decide who you are, and that just being you will always be good enough. If we teach our children that they matter, that they are seen, heard, and loved, they'll always know that they're good enough. There won't be that question because they will feel it, and they will see it in your actions, and they will feel it in your moments of day-to-day life and the examples that you set for them. The questions, what if I'm not good enough, stems from insecurities, self-esteem, and being misunderstood. Those three things lead to exactly that question. But what if I'm not good enough? The only rebuttal is ever for who. If you're good enough for you, the rest of the world will see that too. Honestly, Brian, I'm putting that on a t-shirt. If you're good enough for you, the world will see it too.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just made that up in my show notes.
We'll have our little coffee logo on the back.
Right?
Okay?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how do we segue to this next one, this next question?
Well, shit.
The question that came in is masturbation normal? And what is porn?
Oh, you're taking this.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
no.
sure.
No, yeah.
The guy who had the urologist appointment this morning is going to take this one. Is that what you're saying?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we want to thank our reader for sending this in.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
It's a great question. And it's something I never talked to my parents about, nor did I talk to my daughters about.
Yeah.
At least not in a direct way.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, growing up, it was trial and error. I wasn't sure if masturbation was good, or if it was bad, or if it was going to go to hell, or if it was just something that I was naturally going to learn and move past it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the question that everyone asks eventually is, how much is too much?
Right. Great question.
So I thought about it, and you break it down into if a 10-year-old is asking, and I would honestly say, sometimes people touch their bodies because it feels good, especially if their body starts to grow and change. But masturbation is something that's done in private. It's not something for public places, and that's answering their question.
Yeah.
Right? I'm leaving it at that, and I would end up by saying, if you have any more questions or you feel unsure about something, come and ask. I want to open the conversations. If it's a 16-year-old asking because of something that they're joking about or just unsure about, I would just be upfront. And masturbation's a normal part of human sexuality. Most people do it at some point. The important thing is that it's private. There's privacy. And make sure it doesn't interfere with your daily life. And don't let unrealistic expectations interfere with it, such as if you've seen porn. Speaking of porn, because I know that was the second part of the followers or the question that came in, is when I was younger, I didn't honestly know what that word meant.
Okay.
I had no idea. I remember finding an old Playboy magazine stuffed in an abandoned car in our orchard, and I thought, God, I have struck gold.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
by going through the pages, and I ended up secretly reading the book The Happy Hooker when I was 13 or 14 years old. And
it's a real book?
Oh my gosh, look it up.
Okay.
And there were definitely paragraphs that I had no idea what the author was talking about. But there were other paragraphs that I could certainly visualize and had a body reaction to, for sure.
Okay.
So for a 10-year-old, I would say, sometimes there's pictures online or in magazines of bodies doing things that are not for kids to see.
Right.
But if you see something, it doesn't mean you're in trouble. Let me know and we can talk more about it. If it's a 16-year-old, I really want to make it clear that porn is something that was made for entertainment, not education at all. It's often shows unrealistic bodies, behaviors, expectations about sex and relationships. Watching it doesn't make you a bad person, but it can shape the way you think if you're not careful about it. It's important to balance it with real understanding of respect, consent, and healthy relationships. So that's just answering what they've came up with. I'd never had these discussions with my parents, nor did I have these discussions with my girls, but it is a natural process that is about human sexuality.
Yeah, I never had those conversations when I was a kid either with my parents at all.
I'm hoping the person who sent that in has been asked that and just didn't ask us to see how we would answer it.
Oh, I never thought of that. Actually,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a topic that is something that kids think about.
Yeah, and listener, if you are waiting for our answer so that you can answer, good luck.
I could just tell by your body language that you would like to read that book, The Happy Hooker, by Xvira Hollander, I think it was, written in the early 1970s.
I'm actually going to have to see if that's on Audible.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
I'll let you know.
It was a book ahead of its time. It was early 1970s.
Wow.
By Ms. Hollander.
Wow. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. So, again, switching gears here. Boy, your questions that you sent in are wonderful, guys and gals.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're doing okay with it. I really do.
Yeah. Okay. This next question. Why don't people talk about mental health?
That's usually because there's a stigma around it.
Well, tell me more.
And that's exactly why you and I talk so often about it on this podcast, is to break down that stigma and break down the barriers behind not talking about mental health. That's the whole mission behind this podcast, is we're trying to change the narrative when it comes to mental health. Google says the mental health stigma involves negative attitudes, stereotypes, discrimination against people with mental health conditions, often leading to shame, secrecy, and avoidance of treatment. It presents as public stigma, which in brackets is prejudice, self-stigma, which in brackets is internalized shame, and structural stigma, which is systematic barriers, which causes roughly 60% of people with mental health issues to not seek help. 60%. 60%. I thought the numbers were a lot lower than that, but that's why I had to include that little stat in this, because that number is way too high in my opinion. 60% of people don't feel like getting mental help or help with their mental health because of all these extra factors leading, whether it's all these things that I just read, public prejudice, shame, and oh God, that's just a shame. We talk at great lengths on this podcast about mental health and the importance of addressing the stigma associated with mental health. I've said it in other episodes. I can't remember which one it was, but I had said I am on a mission to make mental health more accessible and more acceptable. And I can't remember which episode that was in. And I believe it's time to normalize mental health more than ever. With so much going on in the world right now and so much instability that you see everywhere you look, I feel like mental health has got to be at the forefront of somebody's decision making to make sure that mental health is normalized. Just I don't know what it's going to take, but I'm on a mission to make sure that it's normalized. Children are exposed to so much through technology and what they have accessed to at their fingertips. They're constantly being bombarded with influencers and their opinions, with media and its agenda, with the rapidly changing trends on social media and the platforms, all of these pranks and challenges and all of the foolishness that goes on TikTok. I was trying not to say it, but it's got to be so overwhelming for them to just go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And as parents, we need to listen to our kids when they have questions about how the world is operating and how things are moving so fast and where they find themselves in all of it. And sometimes how they see themselves in all of it. We need to pay attention to their mental health And I'll say that again. We need to pay attention to their mental health. And we have to, when it's necessary, suggest and advocate for therapy when it's necessary and needed. And we have to make sure that our children know that it's okay, that if getting mental health help is what's needed, that's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And you can go to school just like normal and be okay that you're in therapy the night before. It's okay. Because life is tough and we have to keep teaching our children how to navigate through it. Otherwise, they're going to be 50 years old now discovering therapy. Mm-hmm. And that's too friggin' late, in my opinion. Becoming a teenager isn't easy, nor is becoming a young adult. And with that comes a million questions. And sometimes we don't have all the right answers or any answers at all. And they don't need us to. I'll say that again. And they don't need us to. What they need is for us to listen. What they need is to be heard, seen, and loved, because they're already struggling in their day-to-day lives with everything moving so fast. Being accepted and fitting in is already hard enough for them. So our children need to know that at home, they fit in everywhere. It gives them a sense of belonging when they fit in with others, like their peers. But to fit in at home first, it's easier to go out into the world and deal with your peers when you feel like you have a sense of belonging at home.
Powerful.
It builds character and it builds self-esteem. And it's important as parents that we realize your kids' needs. And it's important to see yourself in your children and see your children's needs through the needs that you didn't have met for yourself, whether that's fitting in, finding your crowd within your peers, or finding yourself through therapy.
This next question, it's perfect because it follows the why don't people talk about mental health anymore? Mm. So the question that came in is, why do you always say, I'm fine, or I'm good?
Mm. I've mentioned, and we've talked about numerous times on this show, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm. So why do people say it?
I think there's something to be said for both of these statements. I'm fine and I'm good. Mm-hmm. For one, I've talked about it. Now I'm going to break it down.
Break it down.
Yeah. One is I'm fine. We all know what that means. We've all discussed that enough on this podcast. And I'm fine means I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
And I don't want to talk about it because I don't know how I'm feeling about it. I don't know how to express how I'm feeling. And I don't want to talk about it because I don't know what's wrong. And that's where I'm fine comes from. The unknown. Mm-hmm. I'm fine. It's a cop-out to actually expressing that you're not fine. Right. I'm fine just means I don't know how to express myself, so I can't. I'm fine. The other one is I'm good. Most of the time, I'm good means there's nothing to talk about here. I've used that one many times. I'm good. It just sums up. There's nothing to talk about here. I'm good. There's no need to talk because if you're waiting for me to explain myself, I'm not going to because I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm good means there's nothing left here to be said. I'm good means I'm not interested in whatever you're selling. Yeah, I'm good. I've said that many times at the door.
That explains it.
Yeah. Hello, sir. I'm good, man. Thanks. I don't know what you're selling, but I'm not interested. Thanks. I'm good. No, sir, but I got a great deal. No, thanks, man. I'm not interested. I'm good. Or, can you give me a minute to explain my... Nah, I'm good. It just kills the conversation because you have no interest in continuing the conversation. So one is you don't know how to have the conversation. The other one is you're not interested in having the conversation. And I think that's the difference between the two phrases. I don't want to talk because I don't know how. And the other one is I don't want to talk because there's nothing to talk about. Our next question is, can I tell you something without you getting mad?
What's really important, Jay, is you want to communicate to the child that, yes, they can tell you anything, but you also have to let them know that you may have a reaction, you may be surprised, you may have a feeling about what they're going to tell me, but by reassuring to them that you're going to listen, try to understand from their perspective and then respond accordingly. And because you want to set a stage that they'll come back to you with future issues.
That's right. Yeah.
So, which fits into this next question that our followers sent in to us. What if I'm gay, bi, confused? Can I tell you?
Yeah, that was a great question. There's a lot to that question with it being gay, bi, confused. There's a lot in there. There's a lot of meat and potatoes just in that question alone. And I'm going to do my best as a dad answering on behalf of children everywhere. That's where I'm coming from. And you don't have to understand somebody's sexual orientation. You don't have to understand why they feel the way they feel or why they feel a certain attraction to the opposite sex or the same sex or whatever they're sexually attracted to or whatever their sexual identity is. You don't have to understand it. What you need to do as a parent is just show up. Just show up and be supportive when your children have no idea how life is going to go based on the decisions that they're making in the moment, based on feelings, pure feelings, sexual desires, sexual attraction. It's all based on feeling. And that's what they're basing their decisions on. They have no experience other than what they're feeling. And as long as you show up as a parent for your children, they want to be seen, heard, and feel safe. That's the most important thing. They want to feel safe. Like you were saying in your lead-in, you have to create a space for them to come back to make it feel safe, for them to come back to, for them to return to that conversation.
And there's lots of teachable moments. If you're watching a sitcom on TV or you're reading a book and it has a gay character in it, then there's an opportunity to talk about feelings and how this person is portraying their character. And yes, it may be stereotyped, but it also may be extremely genuine. But the feelings are extremely important.
Yeah, and the decisions that they're making about their sexual orientation, they're hard enough as it is to navigate through when you're a young adult or a maturing teen. They're hard enough as it is. So to be supported, seen, and loved at home, it just makes it easier to navigate through what they're feeling. So when you are willing to sit with your children and make them feel safe and show up and make them feel supported, it gives them a chance to just relax and figure out who they are because they already feel understood at home. If they feel like they have to hide at home, then they feel like they're going to have to hide everywhere. You don't have to understand the decisions that they're making. That's not what they're asking for. They're asking to be loved and supported and cared for. That's it. Seen and loved for unconditionally. And as parents, that's our job. We don't need to understand them. We just need to support them so that your feelings are set aside and all there is left to do is support them and love them unconditionally.
This next question fits perfectly to the previous question. It's, what do you say when you hear homophobic comments? And I wish I had asked somebody when I was growing up that. Because I was teased, I was name called in grade school, called a fag, a sissy, a homo, but I kept those feelings inside. I shut down, I ignored it, and sometimes I laughed it off.
Yeah.
And even as an adult, sometimes I even respond in the same way because I'm not too sure how to handle it. Now I'm finding my words now, and as a principal, students didn't always come to me directly with that question, but I overheard it often. And what I could do is I would take the students aside and help them respond for that question, whether they were targeted themselves or they were a bystander. So even for a young 6-year-old, I would say, you know what, we don't say mean things about people. Everyone deserves kindness, and no matter who they are. And for a 10-year-old, when it was a little bit older and they were in like grade 5-ish, if someone says something hurtful about others, you can say that's not nice. You can choose not to join in, but standing up for people matters.
Absolutely.
And the older kids, I have the conversation with, there are different ways to respond depending on the situation. You can calmly say, that is not okay. That's not cool. Ask them why they think that, or support the person being targeted, because sometimes when you're silent, that feels like you're in agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. Saying nothing is just as bad as saying the comment. Yeah.
And it's just those small responses that help set a boundary. Now, what's really interesting is you'll hear those comments in the locker room between adults. Guys are kibitzing, carrying on, and they'll make the homophobic comment. And why do they do that? And there was a question that came in from one of our listeners who is gay himself, and he wanted to know, if he stands up, it sounds like he's advocating for himself, but it's powerful when a straight person stands up and blocks it right away. And I think that's part of accountability. I mean, compared to racism or sexism, those are visible pushbacks because there's education, there's consequences. But homophobic language that's framed in a joking mode hasn't been challenged directly. And it needs to be challenged to squash it out. Yeah. Because everyone needs to be valued, heard, appreciated, and respected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, our final question that was sent in: do you ever feel like you are failing?
This one was quite easy for me to answer. This was quite easy for me to work on my notes. And just recently, my notes came out of conversations that I've had just recently with my daughters and with my dad. And because sometimes, Brian, I do feel like I'm failing miserably. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying so hard to be better, do better, learn. And I feel like I'm falling short, but I'm not.
No, you're not.
I'm not. And so this comes out of these conversations that I've had with my kids as of late, and to know that I'm saying all the right things, and I'm doing all the right things, and I'm listening when I'm supposed to, and I'm sharing, and I'm not making it about me, and I'm learning to take a pause and come back to the conversation, and so that we can discuss things and learn and grow together. And so I'm doing all the right things, even sometimes when I feel like I'm fucking it up terribly. I'm messing this up so bad, and I'm trying so hard to get it right, but I can't help feel like I'm really screwing this up.
You are so hard on yourself.
So this is where my notes came from. I think a huge part of being a dad or being a parent in general is just showing up. Just show up. Get it wrong, get it right. Just get in there, damn it. I think a large portion of us, and I don't have the stats on this because I'm not the stats guy. We both know you are. But I think a very large portion of parenting is just being willing to show up. Get it wrong, get it right. You're willing to just get in there.
You're doing it. Trying it.
Yeah. Yes. And that's why doing these show notes, that's what I have learned. I'm just showing up. Get it wrong, get it right. I'm just showing up. Woo-wee.
That needs to be on a t-shirt too.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Come out with a new wardrobe after this one. Yeah. Be willing to show up. Be willing to listen. And be willing to get in that conversation and just try to do your best. Don't make it about yourself. And that's the hard part. Don't make it about yourself. Don't find a relatable story for an example. Don't find the need to say, yeah, I've been there too. Because sometimes that's not what's needed.
They don't want to hear that.
They don't want to hear that.
They do not
They
want
don't
to
want
hear
to
that.
hear I've been there too. But having the ability to just listen, just shut your mouth for a minute and just listen.
Bite the tongue.
Yeah, I've had to learn that. Don't let your insecurities get in the way. I've had to learn that. Don't let your opinions get in the way. Just listen to the child without feeling like you need to find the answer or to fix the problem. As parents, we oftentimes feel like we're failing if we don't have the answers or if we can't solve the problems for our kids in those moments. They're not expecting us to. I'll say that again. They're not expecting us to. They're expecting us to show up. They're expecting us to just try. They're expecting us to just do our best. That's their expectations. Just show up and do your best.
Be here when I need you.
Just be here. Show up, listen, and all that matters is your presence. That's it. That's what matters most. If you think they're holding scorecards about how many relatable stories you have, or how many times you're like, oh, I know how you feel. If you think they're holding scorecards on that, nope. They're holding scorecards on how many times you just show up. Get it wrong, get it right. They're holding score on how many times you just show up and your willingness to show up. There's no rule book that says this is how you handle every situation. Nope. But there is one rule, and it's called unconditional love. Show up.
Say it again.
Just show up. It's called unconditional love.
Wow. You know what? That's a wrap, guys. We're closing it there. We want to thank you to everyone who submitted the questions that took us in a different direction sometimes that we never really thought about ourselves. So thank you for doing that. If you've enjoyed this episode, let us know. Send us a text, send us an email, recommend the episode to a buddy, someone in your network that you think may benefit from it.
Absolutely. And always be willing to have the hard conversations because, as we said, they're the ones that matter. And that wraps up today's episode of Coffee and Conversations for Men. Thanks for spending time with us. We truly appreciate it.
Be sure to check out the show notes for resources, links, and everything we covered today. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And if you've enjoyed this conversation, share it with a friend or leave us a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can also follow us on Instagram at Coffee and Conversations for Men. That's 4, as in the number 4.
Got a topic you'd like us to explore? Reach out and let us know. Just a quick reminder, we're not therapists, counselors, or licensed professionals, just 2 longtime friends sharing real stories and lessons from our own lives.
So if you're facing challenges with your health, mental well-being, or relationships, we encourage you to seek guidance from qualified professionals.
We hope our conversation sparked reflection, encouraged growth, and helped you feel more connected.
Until next time, this is Jay and Brian reminding you to grab your coffee
or your favorite drink
and keep the conversation going. So stay strong,
stay curious,
and stay connected.